Yeah, hello and welcome to my new video about a new synthesizer that I bought 2 weeks ago. It's a JP-8000 from Roland. It's from 1996, so it's around 25 years old. And the reason why I bought it, I wanted a trance-like synthesizer with a supersaw, which I explain later. So this video is about the synthesizer. I talk about it a little bit, and then I show you some of the user performances or patches that I built up in the last 2 weeks. A few of them. I hope it works with the volume of the recording, but yeah, we will see. If you want go straight to the examples, I put a time link in the description where you directly can jump to the sound examples if you don't want to hear my talking about the synthesizer. So I think many of the people that are looking this video already know about this synthesizer. Yeah, where do we start? Okay, a little bit of history. Roland, this was the first Roland VA synthesizer that has a name VA, Virtual Analog Synthesizer, on it. There were some of the other companies before Roland. Roland took a little bit more time to put out a digital virtual analog synthesizer. So it's 1996 they put out this thing. There were other synthesizers, like the nordlead was, I think, the first synthesizer used the term virtual analog, and there are plenty of other synthesizers that are using this term. So yeah, let's start. This synthesizer has 2 oscillators, digital oscillators, oscillator 1 and oscillator 2. They are different from each other. Oscillator 1 has 7 waveforms, oscillator 2 has only 3 waveforms, and the functions are a little bit different. Let's go and look which waveforms oscillator 1 has. In the init version, state, it has a sawtooth waveform on oscillator 1 and a sine waveform on oscillator 2. So oscillator 1 has saw waveform, sine waveform. There's a new waveform, it's called supersaw. It was the first synthesizer which has this kind of oscillator, a digital oscillator in it. And it was developed by Roland. It's basically 7 saw oscillators which can be detuned against each other with shaping and LFO depth. And it gives it this bright Hoover-like effect to the sound. If you hear it, people know about it. It's very often used in trance music. Maybe it defines a little bit also the sound of trance music, and it's a reason why I bought the synthesizer. There are modern versions of it in almost every synthesizer you can buy now. There's a triangle Mod Oscillator. I don't know exactly what is that now. It sounds a little bit FM-ish to me. Then you have noise, the feedback oscillator, which is also kind of new. It can be really noisy, but also interesting. Then you have a square, and then you are back to the saw. Oscillator 2 has a range. This can't be tuned. I think it can can be tuned up and down over this function panel or over the octave down, but not in fine tuning. But in Oscillator 2, you have this possibility. You have basically three waveforms, square, saw, and zine. You can sync it with Oscillator 1, and you have a range of 2 octaves up and down and a fine-tuning knob. Then you have the filter section, which is also very interesting. You have a 12 and a 24 dB filter. Types are LF, LPF, HPF, and BPF. And then you have cutoff resonance for sure. You have key follow for the filter, LFO depth, LFO1, envelope depth for the ADSR. So then you have the amp section, which is also very interesting. There you have a level, LFO depth, which also can be auto panned, which is really cool, and for sure the ADSR shaping. Then we have an LFO1, which is one of 2 LFOs with different waveforms, random, saw, square, and zine. Then you have rate and fade, pretty standard. Then you have an oscillator common section, in which you can switch. This is a mixing between oscillator 1 and 2. Then you have a crossfade depth, crossfade direction or something. Then the ring modulation, envelope depth for an LFO depth for the pitch envelope. I don't use this so often. It really sounds weird sometimes. Then you have an effect section in the end with an bass and treble boost or EQ, and a chorus level, which can be dialed in, I think, 10 or so different chorus, flange, and phase effects. Then you have a delay, which sounds really good, with a time control, feedback, and level, so pretty standard. But you can choose from mono and stereo panning delays, which gives the different kind of deepness to the synthesizer. Then we have the arpeggiator with standard, I would say standard functions, and you have, I think, 30 different rhythms or something like this. I didn't test it so much now, but yeah, we will see. Then you have a keyboard section for portamento, legato, mono, velocity controls. And this section is for the pitch bend and the ribbon controller. This doesn't work on the synthesizer now because I had to change the internal storage battery. The battery was dead. And therefore you have to make a factory reset for this section because all is kind of freezed. You can't use it. It has no function, and you have to make something like a factory. I didn't know exactly how this has to be done. I read this on the internet. I have to do some research for this. The batteries which can be used are CR2032 batteries. I changed it, now everything is function again, and yeah. So there's another section, it's called key and panel, in which you control how the sounds are layouted on the keyboard in the performance mode, for example. So there you have a single mode. Then you can select from one of 2 of the patches. One patch includes 2 of the set of these 2 oscillators, and they can be mixed or played single. So in single mode you play this, in this mode you play the lower patch, in this the upper patch. If you do it in dual, then you play them both together laid on top, and then you can play them in the split mode where you have defined the split point, and then you have a lower section for basses, for example, and an upper for the lead sound or something. Everything on this synthesizer which is time controlled can be controlled via MIDI and in different rhythm settings, which is really cool. So talked enough, I will show you some of the sounds. All right. All right. That was my use. I think now I'm in the area of presets, factory presets. Yeah, that was a review about my JP-8000. I really like it. It sounds a little bit digital, not so analog like it should maybe, but it has its own character. It has 8 voice of polyphony. I'm not quite sure if it's 8 voice polyphony if you're in performance mode where you then play 2 of the patches together. But yeah, I didn't have the problem of voices, less voices now. It sounds really fat. So yeah, thanks for watching. Subscribe my channel if you're interested in more videos like this. And so, see you.